away, take it away. Feeling too good to me. Chilling all day, all in your space is where I wanna be. Here in this room, what did you do? I just can't get enough. Too caught up in your love. I've been trying to forget, but you.
Hey, what's up you guys? It's Zinhle and welcome back to The Real ZB. So if you've been watching this channel for some time now, you will sort of summarize or know that my CA journey has not always been easy, child. It's been ups and downs. It has not been straightforward at all, except for my APC year, which was quite smooth sailing, if I must say. I actually passed my APC on first attempt, so I thought it would be a good idea to share some of the tips that I have that helped me be able to do that. But before we get into that, as you saw from the beginning of this video, we have a PR package, and I actually want to sort of talk about it for a little bit and unbox the items inside with you guys, okay? So here she is. So I got this package from Aoolia, and we are going to go ahead and see inside what is in here. You may have already seen from the beginning of this video, but I just want to talk a little bit more about, you know, what I got. So let us unbox a little bit, and I'll be sure to leave all of the details in my description box of the actual items that I got. So this is an eyewear company, and they reached out to me and they asked if they could send me some items. So sure enough, I went on the website, and I chose the sunglasses that I like because we are approaching, you know, warmer days, and we have to look completely snatched, okay? We have to look cute when it comes to spring and summer, right? So I chose 2 pairs of sunglasses. So they come in these little bubble wraps like this, and yeah, so I chose 2 pairs of sunglasses, and I'll actually leave these 2 pairs also in the description box, and also just the website, so that if you guys are interested to actually purchase anything from the site, then you are able to do so. All right, shipping wise, it was actually quite quick because I ordered these a little over a week ago, and I received them on Friday last week, and it's currently it's Tuesday today. It's currently Tuesday today, so I have been dying to wear these sunglasses, okay? But I knew that I was going to be filming a video today, so I thought let me just leave it for today, right? So the first pair, they come in these little cute dust bags. And the first pair, I've actually had sunglasses similar to these, so I felt like, you know, it would be a good idea because I really love this tortoise shell design and just the actual frame itself. It looks similar to my glasses. Let me just show you. So my prescription glasses look like this. So, you know, it's a theme that is going on. I really love tortoise shell and just this shape. So I had glasses like this before, and they broke. So I was actually really sad about that until I got this opportunity and I was able to replace them. And they also come with this cute duster so that you can clean the lenses. So the first pair is this one. So this is like more casual, but you can also wear it with like formal wear or like anything really. And it's just this little cute tortoise shell pair, which I really love. I feel like this shape is really good like on my face, because my face does come sort of round, so it's nice to have like sort of a square shape. And if you use the links in my description box, you are able to get 15% off, and I'll have all of those details in the description box. And then the second pair I think is my favorite. And this one just reminds me of Uzib from the Becha for some reason, because it's giving bougie, you know, it's giving modern, but it's giving bougie as well, because, you know, it's big, but it's not too big. All right, it's giving the look that I want. I actually saw these and I've just fell in love. I had to have them, so I intentionally wanted, you know, an all black pair, and then I just wanted to replace the pair that I know that I love. And the quality, you guys, is absolutely amazing. So I'm so excited to rock these, even now in winter, to be fair. Like even now in winter, I'm actually excited to go ahead and rock my new sunglasses. I think I'm gonna start with this pair. So make sure that you click on the links on my description box to be able to order yourself a pair of Aoolia sunglasses. They also sell just normal glasses like this, and they come in all these beautiful shapes and frames and sizes. So if you just want to elevate your eyewear, it's a good place to start, because these are quite, you know, these are quite affordable and quite good quality as well. And the shipping is super fast. So within a week or two, you will be able to get your glasses. Anyway, let's get into what we are here for today, and that is to talk about the APC. Now the APC, it's currently August, so it means that you have three-ish months to get yourself ready to sit for the APC towards the end of this year. So it's a good time for me to come on here and just share some of the tips that I have for you that really helped me and were really instrumental in me passing my APC on first attempt. And hopefully these tips will be helpful to whoever is writing APC this year or anytime in the near future. So let's get into it. Okay, just as a background before we get into the tips, I did my APC through the UJ board course. So it was called APT_APC, and that was run by lecturers from UJ. And sometimes they call it the Gauteng board course, but I think that's the ITC program. But the actual program that I was on was APT_APC. And how it worked is that I think we started roundabout in March. I think we started roundabout March, April. Our first assessment was in June. And then there was a sort of supplementary to the June assessment in July or August, and then our second assessment was in September, and then I think in September still, or sometime in October, there was the deferred exam or the supplementary exam, and that is how our course was structured. And you know, during my APC year, I actually passed both of my assessments on first attempt, which meant that I actually did not have to write any supplementaries. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do you know if you've passed or failed APC? Okay, or how does it work? Right, so they have a grading system, right? They have a grading system, and it's not, unfortunately, it's not what we used to at school. It's not in percentages. It's not in any measurable terms. It's actually quite different. So how it works is you're either highly competent, limited competency, or not competent, or no competency, something like that. Okay, so those are the 4 gradings that you can get in an APC or an APT, and in order for you to pass, you have to get a competent or a highly competent, right? And yeah, if you want me to sort of dive deep into how to ensure you get your competent, then please let me know down in the comment section below, because that on its own should be its own video. Okay, But yeah, so you have your HC, your C, your LC, and your NC, and that is how the marks in an APC board, I'm just saying APC board course, in an APC board course work, okay? And also one thing that you need to realize about the APC, just before we move on to the tips, is that the APC or the APC board courses are not about your technical knowledge. So it's not about how much you can regurgitate the textbooks. It's not even about how you can, answer a calculation or answer a discussion question, using your textbooks and using your handbooks and all of that stuff. It's more about measuring your professional competence. So this is where your problem solving skills need to kick in, because on the day of the exams, you are going to be problem solving, and by day of the exams, I mean from the moment that they put out the pre-release up until the moment that you finish writing. So it's literally a week-long exam, to be honest. For the benefit of those who've never written an APT assessment or an exam or anything like that, I think it's going to be beneficial if I just draw the picture for you on how the exam actually works, right? So we've covered the marking, we've covered sort of what is expected of you, so problem solving and professional competence. So the exam in essence is a 5-day exam, a 5-day exam. Let's say it's a 6-day exam, okay? So you receive a pre-release document which will tell you basically the scenario. So it will give you the scenario, it'll give you all the back information, and from that document is where you need to identify the problems, which are, named the triggers. You need to identify the problems that are there. You need to identify what they could possibly ask, what problems you need to solve, and all of that stuff, right? And then you get 5 days to do your research. So based on that pre-release scenario, you will do all of your research and you'll put it neatly in a file. Then on the day of the exam, you bring that file with you into the exam with all your research and with all your discussions and with all your calculations, if you have calculations, like everything that you prepared for the day of the exam. You bring that, as well as all of your other books, obviously, all of your other SAICA books. Bring that to the day of the exam, and on the day of the exam, you have 8 hours to write your exam. And yeah, that's it. You have 8 hours to write the exam, and you sort of need to govern yourself how long you need to spend time on each question. But I'll get to that a little bit later. I'll give you a little trick on how you can work around that 8 hours. But it's basically a 6-day long exam period, right? It's not only that 8 hours on the day. It's the 5-day long pre-release period, as well as the day of the exam. Okay, so now that I've given you all of the contextualization, let's get into the actual tips that I have for you when it comes to the APC. Okay, so the first tip that I have is in line with what I was speaking about the marking, okay? Because the marking is a little bit weird and it's new to all of us, I doubt there is a course that we have done in varsity, in high school, in postgrad, that actually marks us in the way that APC marks us, LC, NC, C, HC, we always get percentages up until this point. So one thing that you need to do is you need to go through rubrics, So for our course, our board course gave us, some specimen responses, and we had to mark those specimen responses so that we were clear what constitutes a not competent answer. We were clear what constitutes a highly competent answer. And Kesana, you must always lean and try to, aim for the highly competent answer, so that even if you don't get your HC, you have enough coverage in order to be competent. So that's just something that I always strive for in my APC year. I would always align myself to the HC responses and make sure that I've captured everything that is required, and I also in some instances go a little step further in order to be highly competent, right? So you need to make sure that you go through those specimen responses in detail. Like, take it so seriously, because this is going to be make or break for you, okay? Because if you only answer some of the things, in order for you to be competent, you need to answer all of the triggers basically on the day. You need to address all of the triggers, and if you have not, then you can't be competent, even if your answers are so brilliant and so eloquent. And that what is needed is for you to be able to answer all of the problems, right, that they give you. So it's a good idea to sort of train your brain to identify when you are answering everything, right? And as far as you're looking at those rubrics, it's enough to look at those specimen responses that they give to you and work through the program as they mark those specimen responses with you. That is enough for you to be competent in your own responses. It's just that thing of you needing to be able to identify when you are being LC or when you're being competent, when you're being borderline. We also had a borderline competency, just as an extra, to say that you're almost there, but you're not quite there yet. I actually forgot about that one. I think there was a borderline competence category, for those who are almost there, but you need something, you need to tweak something in order to be competent, right? So go through those specimen responses, make sure that you are in those classes or in those sessions when the lecturers are going through specifically how to grade an APC paper. It is so fruitful. I attended those as and when they were rolled out. I attended them live, and that is literally all I did. I didn't go and do any extra work. I didn't have, a tutor. I didn't have a mentor. I just did what was expected for me. I followed the program, and I guess this segues into my second tip, is to follow the program that you've selected. Even if your time is a scarce resource, we know you're working, you've got all of these things, you're trying to get competencies, you've got all of these things going on, but it's especially important at APC level to keep up to date with the program, because if you fall behind on one thing, you're not going to recover. You're just going to be lost, because like I said, it's a lot different to everything that we've been doing up until this point, okay? Everything is new, right? Everything you thought you knew, you probably don't know, okay? So it's very, very, very important that you stay on top of the program, because every single thing that is going to be taught in the APC is probably new, okay? And you haven't seen it before, and you can't rely on your prior knowledge because you don't have prior knowledge, okay? So make sure that you stay on top of that. Try to manage your time as much as possible so that each and every live session or contact session that you have with the lecturers, you are there and you are present. Your APC time needs to be your APC time. It's not a lot of time actually that APC requires from you. It's not a lot of time, but all of the time that you have to work on it needs to be quality time, okay? Don't mess around. Don't be distracted by other things. Your APC time needs to be your APC time, and then once that is over, you can go ahead and do other things, right? But just make sure that you're present when you are in a lecture or a contact session. You're present, you're doing it. When it's time to do the homework, you're present, you're doing it. And then once you've completed all of that, then you're free to do anything else you want. But as long as you're keeping up with the program, you should be fine. And whenever there's studying involved, I always say, so I won't dwell on this point, but I always say, consult with the program directors. Please, for my sake, consult with those lecturers, phone them, text them, WhatsApp them, email them, whatever channels that they've given you. Just please do it for my sake. I'm not even going to dwell on this point because I've said it 100 times before, but please consult with the people who are directing the programs, okay? Then my next tip is when it comes to your research phase, okay? All of us are new to this thing, all right? So make sure that those initial classes that you have with your board course, where they actually teach you the steps to doing your research, make sure you pay so much attention to those. Make sure you pay so much attention to those and make sure that you understand all of those steps. That's just your first. You don't move on to anything else until you understand those steps that they give you. I'm sure if you're currently doing APT, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those steps, they give you those steps with the arrows where you go from step 1 to step 2, identify. Step 1, identify. When you're doing your research, your practice scenarios, make sure that you are literally following those things step by step, right? And as long as you do those steps for each and every trigger, I promise you, number 1, your file is going to be useful. And number 2, it's going to go faster by the time you get to, I don't know when you guys are writing the APC, December, November. By the time you get to that month, December, November, when you have to, have your pre-release, you'll be so much quicker at being able to do those steps. So you need, if you haven't at this point mastered those research steps, make sure that you go back to the beginning and understand how to collect information and how to analyze it, and then only at the end, after you've done all of the steps, then only you put that thing in your file, right? And then in line with that, okay, make sure you know how to identify what's a trigger and what's not a trigger. Make sure you know how to distinguish a trigger from a context. You understand? Make sure that is literally your make or break. That is literally the crux of this thing, you being able to identify the problems in the scenario. Because in the APC, my darlings, they don't necessarily tell you what to research on. They just give you information, and then you research for 5 days, and then you come here and you write. Okay, so you need to be able to identify the triggers, work on the triggers, identify the triggers that are triggered by your triggers, work on those, and by work I mean research them, do the work, take all the necessary take all the references that you have, solve them and put them in your file once you've analyzed it. Once you've analyzed them, make sure that they're in line with the scenario. Have your what if this happens, what if that changes, what if this changes scenarios, and then you put them in your file. But if you don't even know what is triggered, then you don't know what you're going to research. Okay, so make sure at this point, if I'm telling you now at this point, if I give you a scenario now and you don't know how to pick up the triggers in that scenario, go back to the beginning, go consult with your lecturers and make sure that you know how to pick up exactly what is a trigger. Okay, as you see these 2 steps, the identifying what's a trigger, and then being able to research those triggers until the wheels fall off. If you aren't spectacular at those 2 steps, you are not going to be successful. So if you know that is what you struggle with, please work on that while you still have time, so that by the second assessment, it should be almost time for the second assessment now. It's August currently. Second assessment is normally around September or so. By that second assessment, make sure that you know exactly how to identify a trigger. Even if I wake you up at 3, sorry guys, there's construction going on. They are renovating our floors, so you might hear some drills and stuff. I should say that at the beginning, but anyways, if you know if you know that you don't know your triggers right now, and you're sort of guessing it, you're winging it, go to the beginning. Make sure that you hone that skill. Okay, you hone that skill. Even if I wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I give you a scenario and I say identify this trigger, you'll be able to do it. Okay, so please. And then in your pre-release period, make sure that all of your triggers are thoroughly researched and thoroughly analyzed, and thoroughly just make sure you have what if scenarios of all of your triggers, because anything can change on the day, and you don't want to put yourself on a back foot if something changes and you don't know how to answer it on the day because you haven't researched it enough. And then next is that group work is important, okay? But to be honest, it's not everything, okay? But try by all means to have a group, and please be careful on how you choose the group, okay? Choose people who are willing to do the work, first of all, because every single person in your group needs to be doing the work. The reason why APC has that, group work portion in the pre-release is so that you can be sounding boards to each other. You can get other perspectives, you can get to know how other people think, and that is going to enhance your professional ability or your professional competence, because you've got all the information that's been given to you, you research all of the information, you form your own sort of thought process and thinking, and then you sit down with other people who are facing the same problem. You share ideas and you share, different perspectives, and you sort of get a good, nice picture on what should be done going forward. Because some people, because of their unique experiences or because of where they work, they might have, they might think of things that you didn't even think to think of, and sometimes there are triggers that we might miss that other people in our group might that might have caught the eye of other people in our group. So it's a very important component to have a group, and it's a very important and it's very important to make sure that your group is diverse. There's no use having a group when all of you guys are auditors at the same place on the same level. Okay, make sure that you have some people who are students. Make sure you have some people who are post articles and are doing the APC. Make sure you have some people maybe who are doing banking, some people who are in consulting, some people on different industries, because that is going to make your experience and your perspective and your view and your research a lot more holistic than having everyone in the group being the same as you. Now, this is why I said being in a group is important, but it's not all that. I actually let me share my own experience on the group work aspect of the APC. Okay, so going into the APT course, board course, they said that we must get ourselves a group. I got into a group. Okay, it was diverse. It was people that I don't know. So I was pretty excited because I felt like, okay, we've got a good balance of skills, and here, and it should be a good discussion. And share my group was good. Okay, it was good. We were strong. We met when we were supposed to meet. We'd share ideas. But the unfortunate part about my group is that most of my group members were studying ITC at the same time as they were doing their APT, so they were going to sit for the second sitting of the ITC. Okay, so just for context, if you don't know, those people who are sitting for the second sitting of the ITC are able to do the APT course, right? And once they pass the ITC, I think you write it around in June or something. If they pass that second sitting of the ITC, then obviously they're eligible to write the APC at the end of the year, so that's why you'll get people who pass everything in 1 year. They'll pass maybe CTA in January, they'll pass ITC in June, and they'll pass APC in December. That's how it works. So a lot of my colleagues on my board, on my group, were in that situation. And then obviously they had to study for ITC, but at the same time they had to do all of this work for APC, and they also had, full-time jobs that they have to do. So it got a little bit much for them, and sometimes they would come to the group discussion and without having, gone through all of the things that we're going to discuss. So it became like not fruitful up until a certain point. But for myself, I did the work, and I shared my ideas and all of that stuff, which was fine. And then unfortunately, I think before we wrote the second assessment, the ITC results came out, and I think with the exception of one person on the group, everybody else had been unsuccessful in the ITC. I think it was 1 or 2 that passed the ITC, and then the rest had to repeat ITC. So it meant that in essence my group was finished at that point. Obviously, if the others were not going to write APC in the current year, they'd rather just focus on their next ITC sitting. So basically my group just fell apart because of that, and I actually went into my second assessment in September without having a group. So I did it all on my own, and I was actually quite nervous about it, because the second sitting of the second assessment of the APT board course, if you didn't get a competent for that one, it meant that you were not going to write the APC. Okay, so the second, you need to get a C for the second assessment. Okay, so it's not cumulative. It's not because you passed the first one, the second one you can sort of fail. No, the September one, you have to get a C for that one in order for you to be eligible to sit for the APC, because they give you a certificate and everything. So I was really nervous going into that one because I was alone. It was just me, and but I was able to pull it off. I ended up getting a big fat competent, and I was just so happy when I saw that result. I kept on refreshing it, and I screenshotted it just in case they said, "Psych, we were just joking," or "it was a mistake." I didn't even want mistakes to happen. I was so happy and so grateful that I got a big fat green C for that second assessment, and it meant that I didn't have to sit for the supplementary assessment, which I didn't want to do in the first place. And yeah, but if you have a choice, do the group thing, do it well. But if circumstances put you in a situation where you have to do it solo, that's fine as well. And then just some exam technique, okay? When it comes to the numbers that you have to crunch in the APC, on the day especially, make up your own numbers. Please make up your own numbers. Obviously have like the correct thought process, and make sure that you're using numbers from the scenario if there's numbers over there. So I'll make an example. if there is a scenario there, that a task on the day that needs you to show calculations for net present value, so you're gonna keep referring to your net present value and your thought process when it comes to that, and you need to use your Excel spreadsheet to show your nice net present value calculation. Show a detailed working out of your net present value. Take all of the information from the scenario that you're given, plug in the numbers that you're given in the scenario. But when it's time to do, the totals and the bottom line numbers, don't spend your time using your calculator or using complicated Excel formulas to calculate those numbers, because the numbers themselves don't matter. Just put there a round number. If you can see something is round about 10 million, just write 10 million and move on with your life. Okay, make up the totals. I actually used to do this since undergrad, actually since high school, but literally just make up the numbers as you go. Make sure that the marker will be able to see that you took numbers from the scenario, but nobody marks the actual bottom line numbers. So you're going to be wasting your time if you're going through the calculation and checking the calculation and making sure that it's pristine and everything balances and everything. No, don't do that. Nobody cares if nobody cares if your answer is accurate or not. They just care to see your thought process. They care to see what an NPV calculation looks like, how to use it, what to put where. That is all. And plus, you don't really get that much credit for your calculations, so don't waste your time doing all these elaborate calculations. Do what's expected and move on. Okay, and also in your actual file, okay, make sure that you've got all the formulas printed somewhere there. You've got all your formulas for your ratios, you've got all the templates for your NPVs and all of those things that need you to do a table calculation. Print those out and put them in your file, and only refer to those templates if you need them. Okay, it's gonna make your calculations a lot faster. If you know that, okay, they need me here to show an NPV, you go in your file, you flip to the NPV template, you plug it there in your Excel, you put in the numbers from the scenario, make up your numbers at the bottom, and then move on to answering the actual task, making reference to your working, and also reference your workings. Okay, in your Excel sheet, have working 1. Go ahead and number your workings: working 1, working 2, working 3. Okay, and then also when you're answering the scenario, every time you make reference to that 10 million that you made up, you're going to put in brackets working 1. Okay, so that they know, there's a working here. Okay, that's all that's required of you. No need to have your calculator out there completely just sweating from every single pore. Okay, none of that, And then speaking of moving on, okay, now this is a trick that I used on how to sort of keep within the 8-hour time limit of the APC. Okay, so when people hear that the APC is 8 hours long, people seem to think that's a lot of time. But if you have sat for an APT board course assessment or the APC itself, you'll know that 8 hours is nothing. 8 hours is not a lot of time. Okay, that 8 hours goes quickly. Okay, so you need to be very intentional about how you allocate your time. So this is how I allocated my time. Now, if this does not work for you, then you don't have to do it. And obviously, when you're doing your practice exams, if you're going to make use of what I'm about to tell you, please do it while you are practicing, and don't walk into an actual assessment and do this if you haven't practiced it before. Okay, so what I did, so I had 8 hours. The first 45 hours I would take for planning. Okay, so what does my planning entail? My planning entails reading the scenario a couple of times, reading the required or the tasks, they call them tasks in APC, reading the tasks a couple of times, making sure that the tasks that I'm given and everything that has been triggered on the actual task, I write it as it is. I copy and paste it directly from the task as it is, so I'll be like task A, I'll put all the tasks there. Task B, I'll put all the tasks they want me to do. I'll go through the scenario, make sure there's nothing I've missed out. I haven't answered a single thing yet. Okay, then I go back and I plan what I'm gonna say for each task. So this is where your mind mapping comes in. You sort of plan in your mind what you're gonna say, you mind map it, and luckily you have your file as well, so you're gonna say refer to file, and you've referenced your file. It's got these nice organizational flags, and you know exactly where to find the information when you're answering that task. So you put it all just roughly on the answer book, okay? Because obviously it's a computer-based exam, so you can delete backspace and everything once you're done and make it neat. But I'll do sort of a rough sketch on what is expected of me, and then I'd go back, read the scenario, okay, anything additional that I need to add, and then after my 45 minutes is up, okay, of planning my answers, then I would allocate the remaining 7 hours and 15 minutes. La 15 minutes is I'm not going to use it until the end. So these, I think there were about 8 tasks, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly. There's about 7 or 8 tasks. I think there's 8. So I'll take my 7 hours. Remember, we took the 15 minutes. The 45 minutes is for planning. 15 minutes, we're taking it, we're putting it in our pocket. So we left with 7 hours, okay, to do 8 tasks. So you stick to that time. You go to task A, you look at your clock, and then you start typing. This is now you typing your full on answer, structuring how a competent or highly competent learner would answer this question. Make sure that you are just banging out everything that's been triggered on the actual task. You answer everything, and then if by some chance you finish that task before, you take the remaining time and you put it in your pocket and you move on to the next one, okay? Trust me, just move on, because there will be tasks that will take you 30 minutes, and there will be tasks that will take you 50 minutes, right? But there's no way to know until you actually start writing. So it's a good idea to just try to do everything in 45 minutes. If you take less time, then add that time to the time in your pocket. If you need more time, then make sure that you sort of mark that task and know that you're gonna come back with the 15 minutes in your pocket, or the however many minutes that you have in your pocket, okay? So after 45 minutes is up, move. Doesn't matter if you finished, doesn't matter if you still need to put a full stop, an exclamation mark, whatever, just move, okay? And then you get to the end of your tasks. So you've answered all of your tasks. Now you take out the time that you've put in your pocket. So say now, because on some tasks you were fast, you are now sitting with 30 minutes in your pocket. So it's that 15 minutes that you had at the beginning plus additional 15 minutes from the tasks where you saved time. You put them together, you have 30 minutes until the exam ends. Now you must decide, are you gonna go back and finish a task where you feel like you were not very competent in that task, you need to add a little bit more meat. You go back to those ones, but you at least know that you've covered all of the tasks and you just adding these changes, and you still have time to proofread everything at the end. So that is how I personally did all of my assessments. That is how I personally did the APC, and I think it was very instrumental in me passing, because I was able to get through all of the tasks and answer all of the things that were required of me, simply because I knew how to manage my 8 hours on the day. So those are just some of my top tips on how I was able to pass the APC on my first attempt. But if you do have other APC related questions, make sure you leave them for me down in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to follow up with another video or short for you. Make sure you follow me on TikTok as well, because that's where I put out the bulk of my aspiring CASA content for people who are still studying, people who want to study. So make sure that you are following me there, and I will see you next week for another video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.